The afternoon sun hung low over the ridge behind my house, casting long beams of gold across the porch as I worked a fresh layer of white paint into the railings. It was one of those deceptively peaceful summer days, warm breeze, cicadas humming, the smell of pine and sun, baked soil drifting lazily through the air. Living in the country was supposed to be an escape, and for the most part it had been, until the HOA came along. My property wasn't technically part of the HOA jurisdiction when I bought it, but over the years they'd tried every trick imaginable to rope me into their fiefdom. I tolerated their newsletters, their community requests, their clipboard visits, because none of it really touched me until the moment Linda arrived that day, heels crunching on gravel as she marched up the driveway with the determination of a woman about to deliver a royal decree. I didn't see her approach at first. What I noticed was the sudden absence of birdsong, the way the breeze stalled as if nature itself was holding its breath. Then came the sharply cleared throat. I turned. There she was, Linda Clarkson, HOA President, Queen of Passive Aggression, dressed in a crisp coral blazer despite the heat. Her blonde bob was shellacked into a shape that could cut glass. The infamous clipboard rested under her arm like a weapon. "Good afternoon, Marion," she said, smiling tightly. Her eyes flicked toward the paintbrush in my hand. "Still working on that porch, I see." Her tone made it clear she disapproved of either the color, the timing, or the fact that I was doing it myself rather than hiring an HOA approved contractor. "Afternoon, Linda," I replied, wiping sweat from my brow with the back of my wrist. "What brings you all the way out here?" She inhaled dramatically, expanding her chest as if preparing to deliver a speech to Congress. "I'm here on behalf of the HOA board with some exciting news." "Is that so?" I muttered. "Yes," she continued, undeterred by my lack of enthusiasm. "You'll be thrilled to know the board unanimously voted to host this year's summer gala at your property." I blinked once, twice, letting the words settle into my brain. A summer gala at my place. The HOA summer gala wasn't a few neighbors gathering for lemonade. It was an event with chandeliers, ice sculptures, professional catering, and a parking situation that would rival an amusement park on a holiday weekend. Why?" I asked. "And since when does the HOA get to decide what happens on land they don't own?" Her smile tightened further. "Oh, don't be modest. Your backyard is absolutely perfect for an event of this scale. The oak grove, the open field, the little creek, everyone on the board agreed it would be the ideal venue." I crossed my arms. "Linda, you've seen my place. It's a home, not a resort. And it could be both with a little cooperation," she said breezily. "Besides, after your absence from the spring cleanup, it would be a lovely way to give back to the community." I set my paintbrush down very deliberately. "I didn't participate in the cleanup because it had nothing to do with my property. Your members dumped all the branches and leaves from the common lot behind my fence the day before, then expected me to help clean what wasn't mine." Linda pretended not to hear me. "We've already started planning. Caterers, daycare teams, even a band. Everyone is very excited." She clasped her hands together in a way that made my stomach tighten. "We'll need access to your kitchen, your power supply, the back acreage, and the no." The word came out before she finished listing her demands. Her eyebrows shot up. "I'm sorry." I said no. "I'm not hosting anything. I didn't agree to this, and you have no right to volunteer my house." Behind her eyes, I saw the briefest flash of something sharp. Annoyance, maybe even fury. But she smoothed it over quickly. "Marion, this is a community decision. It's important for residents to support each other. I support my neighbors," I said. "But this isn't supporting. This is you deciding what's convenient for you." Her nostrils flared, barely perceptible, but enough to show the crack in her veneer. "Everyone else supports the idea." I lifted an eyebrow. "You asked everyone else before asking me." "Well," she hesitated. "It was unanimous. I let that sink in. So the entire board, and likely half the neighborhood, had already been told I was hosting the gala before I'd even been consulted." "Typical Linda," I said slowly. "I don't host parties. I don't want 100 strangers using my bathroom, trampling my fields, and blocking my driveway. And I especially don't want the HOA telling me what happens on My land, her smile vanished completely. In its place appeared the expression of a woman who had spent a lifetime getting what she wanted and couldn't comprehend the concept of refusal. She took a step closer, standing on the lowest porch step so we were nearly eyed. "Why, this isn't optional," she said quietly. "It absolutely is." A tense silence stretched between us, heavy and electric. I could feel her anger, hot and simmering beneath the surface. She clutched her clipboard so tightly the metal clip dug into her palm. "Well," she finally said, voice clipped, "if that's your final answer, I suppose the board will need to reconsider the gala location. But I want you to know, Marion." She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice to a whisper no softer than a hiss. "Your lack of cooperation will be noted." "Noted where?" I asked, trying not to laugh at the absurdity. "In the sacred HOA Book of Grudges." She didn't answer. Instead, she spun around sharply, her heels chewing into my gravel driveway as she stormed toward the road. The heat radiated off her like steam from a boiling kettle. As she passed the mailbox, she scribbled something onto her clipboard with violent strokes that nearly tore through the paper. "You'll regret this, Marion," she called over her shoulder without turning around. I watched her retreat down the road, her posture stiff, her steps clipped with irritation. I shook my head, picked up my paintbrush, and returned to the porch rails, though the peaceful mood from earlier had evaporated. At the time, I shrugged off her warning as nothing more than petty dramatics, an empty threat from a woman who believed rules were divine law and clipboards were instruments of judgment. I didn't take her seriously. But 4 days later, when the first sickening stench seeped into my home and the basement began to fill with brown, bubbling water, I would realize just how far Linda and her precious HOA were willing to go. The first thing I noticed was the silence, not a peaceful silence, the kind that comes with a heavy pause before something breaks, the kind that raises the hairs on your arms and makes your instincts tighten, like an animal sensing a storm before it hits. I had just stepped out onto the back deck with my morning coffee when I realized I couldn't hear the wind chimes. The breeze was blowing. I could see the oak leaves trembling, but the usual clinks of metal were gone. Then came the smell. It drifted across the yard like an invisible fog. Subtle at first, almost ignorable if not for its unfamiliarity. A sour, rancid note that tugged at the back of my throat. I frowned, sniffed again, and felt a coil of dread twist in my stomach. It was the kind of smell that shouldn't exist in nature, filthy, chemical, rotten in a way that made my eyes sting. Coffee forgotten, I set the mug down and walked toward the basement door that opened directly from the deck. Before I even touched the knob, warmth radiated from the gap beneath it, warm, heavy, humid, and wrong. I pushed the door open slowly. The wave of air that hit me was suffocating. It was like breathing through a damp rag, dipped in decay. My eyes watered instantly. I gagged, covering my nose with my sleeve, and stumbled down the first step. Something sloshed below. Sloshed, a thick, viscous sound, not water, but something heavier, something clinging. The dim light of the basement bulb flickered off the surface of a rising pool of brown liquid that covered half the floor. It bubbled around the drain like a witch's cauldron. Bits of toilet paper and debris drifted lazily in the muck. Sewage, a full, body chill ran through me. Not just from disgust, but from the immediate, brutal realization. This was no accident. Not after the stunt Linda had pulled, not after her threat. I swallowed hard, heart-pounding as I backed out of the basement, slammed the door, and sprinted across the yard toward the community utility path. My boots crunched through gravel and weeds as the smell grew stronger, thicker, overwhelming. That was when I saw them. 3 HOA board members clustered around the community sewer access hatch, the metal cover pried open and discarded beside them. One man, Derek, the treasurer, was crouched down with a huge wrench in his hands. Another, Susan, the secretary, held what looked like a length of flexible tubing. A third hovered awkwardly, glancing over his shoulder with the guilty twitchiness of a child caught stealing cookies. When they heard my footsteps pounding up behind them, all 3 froze mid, motion like actors who forgot their lines. "What," I shouted, voice cracking with rage, "did you do? They jerked upright. Derek slipped on the metal edge, fumbling with the wrench. Susan dropped the tubing, and it uncoiled across the grass like a snake. Linda, of course, was there too. She stepped forward from behind the trio, smoothing her blazer as if she'd just arrived for a luncheon. Her expression was maddeningly calm. "Oh, Marian," she said, her voice dripping condescending sympathy, "we were just investigating the source of the backup. Such an unfortunate coincidence." Coincidence? I gestured wildly toward my house. My basement is filling with sewage, actual sewage, and you're all standing here with tools like cartoon villains. What did you touch? Derek opened his mouth, closed it again, then stared at his shoes. Susan gave me a tight, uncomfortable smile. "Sometimes old pipes just fail." "Really?" I snapped. "Funny how they failed right after I told you I wouldn't host your stupid gala." Linda's smile sharpened to a razor's edge. "You seem very emotional this morning. Maybe take a breath before hurling accusations." I took a step toward her, fury trembling through my legs. "You threatened me, Linda. You told me I'd regret saying no, and perhaps you misunderstood," she replied smoothly. "I meant the board would be disappointed." "No, you didn't." Her silence was answer enough. Behind her, the man who'd been hovering nervously, Tom, I remembered, finally spoke up, his voice barely above a whisper. "Linda, maybe we should quiet," she snapped without looking at him. The way he shrank back confirmed everything he knew. They all knew. They had done something to the pipes deliberately, something malicious and stupid and dangerous. I clenched my fists, trying to steady my breathing. "This is illegal," I said. "Whatever you did, it's vandalism, it's harassment, it's—" "Oh, please." Linda rolled her eyes. "No one here tampered with anything. We were simply responding to a report. Maybe you damaged the line doing one of your little home projects." "My home projects?" I barked out a disbelieving laugh. "Painting my porch somehow exploded the sewer line under my house." She shrugged, tapping her clipboard against her hip. "I'm not an engineer. That's obvious." Her eyes flashed dangerously, but she maintained her icy posture. "If you're implying we had anything to do with your plumbing mishap, I'd advise against pursuing that line of thought. False accusations can lead to complications." "Complications?" I asked. "Like sewage flooding my basement." She smiled sweetly. "Exactly." For a moment, everything went completely still. The summer breeze died. Even the insects seemed to pause. I stared at her, my pulse pounding in my ears, my mind racing through every nightmare scenario. My belongings, my workshop, my family photos, all drowning in filth because she didn't like being told no. I took another step toward her. "You did this," I said softly, shaking with fury. "You and your petty little dictatorship." Linda's smile widened, though her eyes hardened into two icy points. "Careful, Marian. Those are strong words, not as strong as what I'm going to do next." She tilted her head. "Is that a threat?" "No," I said, straightening my shoulders. "It's a promise." Her expression flickered, just for a split second, but I saw it. Doubt a crack in her confidence. She didn't respond. Instead, she turned sharply and walked away, her minions scrambling to follow. Derek tripped over the wrench in his rush to escape. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the open sewer hatch, bile rising in my throat as the stench thickened around me. I knew then, knew with absolute clarity, that I couldn't let this go. This wasn't a prank or a misunderstanding. It was a targeted attack, a punishment for daring to defy the queen of the HOA. I didn't know exactly how yet, but one thing was certain. Linda Clarkson had just started a war. And I intended to finish it.